The phone buzzed against the nightstand at 12:17 a.m. Daniel West woke with a start, the kind of jolt that came not from habit, but from fear pressing its thumb into his chest. He fumbled in the dark, answering before the second buzz. On the other end, his 8-year-old son whispered. The words were faint, stretched thin, as though each one scraped its way up from his lungs. "Dad, I can't breathe. There's smoke everywhere." For a second, Daniel thought he had misheard, that it was a dream bleeding into waking life. But then came the cough, wet, dragging, child-sized. The sound stripped him of sleep like cold water poured over his head. "Noah, where are you right now?" Daniel's voice cracked, already rising as his body moved faster than his thoughts. He was on his feet, searching for his jeans with one hand while steadying the phone with the other. And in the tub, Noah wheezed, the small echo of bathroom tiles behind him. "Mom said hide if it looks like fire." Daniel's throat went dry. The clock blinked 12:18. He was already grabbing his keys, his pulse pounding through the bones in his face. "Stay where you are. Keep the phone with you. I'm coming." The house door slammed shut behind him as he sprinted to his truck. Gravel spit under tires. He told 911 the address, each number sharpened by panic. The dispatcher's calm tone felt almost alien compared to the hammer in his chest. "Units are on their way, sir. Stay on the line if you can." The streets blurred. Red lights meant nothing. His hands were fists locked around the wheel. Every second his son's voice replayed in his skull. "I can't breathe." When he turned into Mara's cul-de-sac, the sight nearly stole the air from his lungs. The windows of her house wore a milky film, like frost on glass, only it was moving, swirling. Not flames, no orange glow, just haze that pressed itself against the panes. Daniel left the truck door open as he ran, the slam echoing behind him. He pounded the front door. "Noah, Mara." Silence. He threw his shoulder once, twice. On the third strike, the frame cracked. The door gave way with a groan, spilling him into a living room drowned in pale white mist. The smell hit first. Not the bitter choke of burning plastic or wood, but something sickly sweet, slippery in the back of his throat. His eyes stung. He yanked his hoodie over his nose, stumbling forward, calling his son's name. Somewhere deeper in the house, a smoke detector chirped once, and then fell silent, as if gagged. The air pressed close, sticky. Daniel moved blind, hands grazing walls, until the low hum of the fan guided him to the bathroom. There in the tub, Noah curled small, pajamas clinging to damp skin. His eyes were wide and glassy, his chest hitching against the inhaler pressed to his lips. His little hands shook, trying to work the canister. "I've got you," Daniel breathed, scooping him up, pressing the boy against his chest. He could feel every jagged rise of Noah's ribs. Together they stumbled back down the hallway, Daniel's vision tunneling as the haze thickened. The porch air hit like salvation, cold, cutting, honest. Daniel sank to his knees on the lawn, cradling Noah as the boy wheezed, the inhaler clattering to the grass. "You're okay. You're okay. Breathe with me." In out. The wail of sirens grew, washing blue and red across the quiet street. Neighbors' lights flicked on, curtains shifting. Fire engines screamed to a stop, boots hit pavement, and figures in turnout gear charged past. Daniel held his son tighter, heart slamming with a single thought that refused to leave him. There had been no flames, only smoke, and his boy, whispering into the dark. The first firefighter through the door was swallowed almost instantly by the haze, his reflective stripes the only proof of movement inside. Another team unrolled hoses across the lawn, though the absence of flames made their urgency falter. Daniel kept Noah pressed against his chest, rocking unconsciously, as if the rhythm could steady the boy's trembling breaths. "Easy," he whispered. "Breathe slow. You're safe now." But every rise of Noah's ribs was sharp, shallow, like his lungs refused to trust the night air. A firefighter crouched near them. His helmet shield caught the glare of the street lamps. "How long was he in there?" "I don't know," Daniel answered. "He called me at 12:17. His voice was hoarse, stripped raw by fear. The firefighter gave Noah a quick once-over, then signaled for a medic. Within seconds, Paramedics were fitting a mask over the boy's small face, attaching a pulse oximeter to his finger. Numbers blinked red, too low. Daniel gripped Noah's hand, waiting for them to rise. From inside the house came muffled voices. No flames. Just fog. Source unknown. Daniel turned his head, staring at the front windows. The haze curled outward now as firefighters forced ventilation. It rolled across the lawn in lazy waves, dissipating under the streetlight glow. That same sweet smell clung to Daniel's nostrils. Unnatural, almost chemical. Noah coughed under the mask. His small voice fought through. Dad. Mom said hide in the tub. Said it's a safe place. Daniel's jaw clenched. Mara. Of course she had told him to hide, drilled him with rules like fire drills, but where was she now? Why wasn't she here on the lawn, clutching their son? He forced his tone steady. You did exactly right, buddy. I found you. You're safe. The fire captain emerged from the doorway, helmet tucked under his arm. His expression was more curious than alarmed. Sir, we're not finding any heat signatures. No active fire. He gestured toward the machine a crew member carried out, a squat, boxy device with a small reservoir. This looks like a fog generator. Common for theaters, haunted houses. Still running when we got here. Daniel blinked, struggling to reconcile the words. A fog machine? The captain nodded. The haze matches. Sweet smell, glycerin base. Non-combustible, but it'll choke an asthmatic if it builds up in a closed space. Smoke detectors had batteries pulled, too. Somebody set this up. The words landed like bricks in Daniel's stomach. His gaze drifted back to Noah, the boy's thin chest rising under the oxygen mask. Somebody set this up. That meant planning. Intention. The medic glanced up. He'll need a hospital check. Exposure like this plus asthma? We won't risk it. They loaded Noah onto a stretcher. His small hand shot out until Daniel caught it, walking beside him as they lifted him into the ambulance. For a moment, Daniel thought of calling Mara. His thumb hovered over her name, but anger boiled beneath the fear. She should have been here already. She should have smelled the haze before her son did. Instead, Daniel climbed into the ambulance, never letting go of Noah's hand. As the door shut, he caught one last glimpse of the house through the narrow window. Haze spilling like a stage effect, firefighters hauling equipment that had no place in a child's home. Blue lights streaked across the quiet streets as the ambulance pulled away. Inside, the medic adjusted Noah's mask, speaking softly. Daniel pressed his forehead against the metal wall and closed his eyes. Questions clawed at him, louder than the siren. Why was a fog machine running in Mara's living room? Why were the detectors silent? And why did his son's whisper, so rehearsed, so specific, sound less like panic and more like a line from a script? The siren wailed on, carrying them toward answers Daniel wasn't sure he wanted to hear. The emergency room smelled of antiseptic and late-night fatigue. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, sharp against Daniel's bloodshot eyes. He walked beside the gurney until nurses guided Noah into a small bay curtained off from the hall. Pulse ox is climbing, a nurse said, studying the monitor clipped to Noah's finger. Oxygen at 94 and rising. Daniel exhaled for the first time since leaving the house. He sat on a plastic chair beside the bed, gripping the rail. Noah's eyelids drooped, his breath shallow but steadier under the mask. The attending physician, a woman in navy scrubs, entered with practiced calm. Mr. West? Your son's stable for now. The substance he inhaled is consistent with glycerin vapor. Harsh on lungs, but not immediately toxic. The real issue is his asthma. He had no protection against the exposure. Daniel nodded, jaw tight. Will he be okay long term? With rest, yes. But he'll need observation overnight. She glanced at the inhaler on the counter. This one's almost empty. Did he use it during the incident? Daniel rubbed his face. He tried. I don't know how much he got. The doctor picked it up, shook it lightly, frowned. We'll replace it immediately. She scribbled on a chart, then left, leaving the curtain swaying behind her. Daniel leaned forward, brushing Noah's hair from his forehead. You scare me tonight, buddy. Noah's lips curved in a weak smile beneath the mask. His voice came muffled, but clear enough. Tyler said, if I ever called you, I should whisper, so the mic wouldn't spike. Daniel froze. The words didn't belong to an 8-year-old. They belonged to someone who thought in lenses and audio levels. His pulse hammered in his ears. He forced himself to ask gently, "When did Tyler say that?" "Yesterday. We practiced." Noah's eyelids fluttered. Like a game. Daniel's chest tightened. A game. Practicing how to whisper into a phone during smoke. His mind replayed the tape marks on the floor, the ring light, the fog machine. None of it was random. The curtain rustled, and Mara appeared, hair damp, smelling faintly of perfume. She gasped dramatically, rushing to Noah's side. "Oh, my baby, are you okay?" Tears streamed fast, too fast. She kissed his forehead, ignoring Daniel. "I was only gone for medicine, I swear." "I didn't know." Daniel stood slowly. "You left him in that house? With a fog machine running?" Her eyes darted. It was supposed to be safe. Tyler promised it was non-toxic. He was testing something for his channel. Just a demo. A demo. Daniel's voice sharpened, rising despite the sterile silence of the ward. "You disabled the smoke detectors for a demo?" Mara flinched. They were too sensitive. They went off constantly. Tyler said. Daniel cut in, stepping closer, lowering his tone until it trembled with fury. "And you listened?" Noah stirred, opening his eyes at the tension. "Mom," he whispered, "did I do good?" "I had like you said." Mara's face crumpled. She nodded quickly, stroking his hair. "Yes, sweetie, you did perfect." Daniel turned away, gripping the edge of the chair so hard his knuckles blanched. His son thought this was a test, a drill, a performance. In the quiet that followed, only the beeping of monitors filled the air. Daniel stared at the curtain's shadow, mind racing. Fog machines, missing batteries, whispering into phones for microphones. None of it was coincidence. It was a setup, a stage, and his son had been cast without ever choosing the part. The hospital's waiting room was nearly empty by the time Daniel stepped outside for air. The glass doors slid shut behind him, leaving only the hum of street lights and the distant hiss of traffic. He leaned against the cold brick wall, phone in his hand, but no number dialed. Mara was still inside with Noah, murmuring soft apologies Daniel no longer trusted. He unlocked his phone, fingers trembling, and opened YouTube. He typed Tyler Hale, Fire Safety Channel. Dozens of videos appeared, smiling thumbnails of Tyler in turnout gear, captions promising life-saving tips and how to rescue your family in a fire. Daniel scrolled, jaw tight. Then he saw it, a new upload, time-stamped just after midnight. Title, Saving My Stepson from a House Fire, Real Time. The blood drained from his face. The thumbnail froze his living room in bright light, fog curling across the floor, a blurred shape small enough to be Noah, crouched in the corner. A bold red arrow pointed at the haze with the caption, "Don't wait. ACT fast." Daniel clicked, but the video spun once before disappearing. Private. Someone had hidden it, but not fast enough. The image burned in his mind. He screen recorded the cached thumbnail and text, saving proof. Then, with a surge of dread, he opened his messages and typed to an old college friend, Mark, who now worked in digital ad operations. "Need a favor. Can you see if Tyler Hale booked any ad campaigns tonight? Urgent." The reply came quicker than expected. "Yeah, give me 5 minutes." Daniel paced the sidewalk, hands in his hair. The taste of that sweet haze clung to his tongue, impossible to shake. He thought of Noah's whisper. Tyler said whisper, so the mic won't spike. That wasn't panic. It was direction. Mark's message buzzed in, confirmed. He had a live emergency demo queued for sponsors. Contract required a heroic rescue moment. CPM around $6,000. Payment tied to Hale Content LLC. Daniel's grip tightened around the phone until his knuckles ached. Sponsors. Contracts. Rescue moment. They had turned his son into a performance. His breathing, his fear, his asthma, as part of paycheck. The automatic doors slid open. Mara stepped out, crossing her arms against the chill. Her face was blotchy from crying, though her eyes darted nervously at his phone. "He's resting," she said softly. "Doctors say he'll be okay." Daniel didn't look at her. "You knew," he muttered. "Didn't you?" She froze. "What are you talking about?" He turned the screen toward her, showing the thumbnail. Her breath caught, lips parting. "That wasn't supposed to go up yet," she whispered, then immediately corrected herself. "I mean, it was just practice footage. Tyler, he said it was harmless." Daniel's voice was low, dangerous. "Harmless?" "My son couldn't breathe. He was choking while you and Tyler staged a rescue for views." Her arms tightened around herself, shoulders curling inward. "We needed the money. Tyler promised it would be safe. He said it would look dramatic, but not hurt anyone." Daniel stepped closer, his words sharp as glass. "Look at me, Mara. You put our son in a set. You disabled alarms. You left him alone in that haze. And for what? A sponsor check." Her chin trembled. Tears welled again, spilling too easily. But this time, Daniel felt no sympathy. Behind them, the wail of an ambulance passed on the street, fading into the night. Daniel stared at his ex-wife, his anger no longer fire-hot, but cold and deliberate. "Tomorrow," he said, "I'll make sure no one never has to whisper into a phone again. Not for you. Not for Tyler. Not for anyone." Mara's tears faltered. Her lips pressed together, fear flickering behind her eyes. Not of Daniel, but of the truth closing in. And for the first time, Daniel realized this wasn't recklessness. It was premeditated. Morning light crept through the blinds of Daniel's kitchen, striping the table where his phone lay. He hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Noah's small body curled in the tub, inhaler trembling in his hand. The cash thumbnail still glowed on the screen, saving my stepson from a house fire, real time. The sight of it made Daniel's stomach twist. He opened his email, attaching the file, sending it to himself 3 different ways in case someone tried to make it vanish. A knock rattled the door. He opened it to find Tyler Hale on the porch, all broad shoulders and smug ease. He wore his firefighter-style jacket, the kind he used for branding, though the Real department had dismissed him years ago. "Morning," Tyler said, flashing a grin as though nothing had happened. "How's the little man? Scary night, huh? Good thing I trained him." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Trained him? You nearly killed him." Tyler lifted his hands in mock surrender. "Relax. That fog is non-toxic. Whole thing was controlled. Viewers need reality to pay attention, and Noah nailed it. He's a natural." Daniel's stomach turned. "You're talking about my son like he's an actor in a video." Tyler leaned against the doorframe. "Daniel, you don't get it. This is what works now. Fear sells. People see a real kid, they listen." The sponsor was thrilled, until the upload glitched. "But don't worry, I'll fix it." Daniel stepped forward, forcing Tyler back onto the porch. His voice was low, steady. "If you ever put my son in front of your camera again, I'll make sure you don't see daylight outside his cell." Tyler's grin faltered, but only for a second. "Careful. Mara signed the contract. She knows the terms. Without her, I couldn't touch your boy." He smirked. "She wanted this as much as I did." The words hit like a hammer. Daniel stared, breath caught. "She signed. Of course. Hale Content LLC. Her name's on the papers. She gets a cut." Tyler adjusted his jacket. "Look, Daniel, you should be thanking me. I'm giving Noah a platform. Millions of views. Security." "Security?" Daniel's laugh was bitter. He couldn't breathe. "That's not security. That's exploitation." Tyler's smile thinned. "Don't be dramatic. No harm done. Kid's fine. Sponsors don't care about details. They care about clicks. If you fight this, you'll just make it messy, for everyone." Daniel's fists clenched, nails biting his palms. "Get off my porch." For a moment, Tyler's eyes hardened. The charm cracked, revealing something colder underneath. But he straightened, brushed imaginary dust from his sleeve, and sauntered down the steps. "Think it over. You can't fight the tide. Views win." The door shut behind him with a slam that rattled the frame. Daniel leaned against it, heart pounding. Tyler's words echoed. Mara signed the contract. He returned to the table, hands shaking as he typed. He forwarded the thumbnail and Tyler's sponsor contract screenshot from Mark to an attorney's email. Then, with grim focus, he called the detective whose card he still had from the night before. "This isn't just negligence," Daniel said when the line picked up. His voice was flat, certain. "It's profit. I've got proof. You need to see it." As he hung up, Noah's soft voice carried from the living room. Dad! Daniel rushed in. His son sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, inhaler clutched like a talisman. His eyes were heavy but searching. Is Mom mad at me? He asked. Daniel knelt, pulling him close. No, buddy. None of this is your fault. He kissed his son's hair, the words tasting like iron. The only people who should be scared are the ones who thought you were a prop. Noah leaned against his chest, and for the first time since the call, Daniel's fear sharpened into resolve. The haze had cleared, but the fight was only beginning. Detectives arrived that evening, two plainclothes officers with tired eyes and clipboards. Daniel spread everything across the kitchen table. The cache thumbnail, screenshots of Tyler's channel, the sponsor confirmation for Mark. He spoke with the same steady anger that had burned since sunrise. This wasn't an accident, Daniel said, sliding his phone toward them. It was staged, monetized, and my son was the bait. One detective leaned closer, scrolling. The thumbnail was grainy but unmistakable. Noah's small figure blurred in a fog-choked corner. This went live. For a minute, Daniel said. Then private. But I recorded it. And Tyler admitted Mara signed the contract. The detectives exchanged a look. We'll need devices, rental receipts, anything that ties them to the equipment, the taller one said. Do you have access to the house? Daniel shook his head. That's Mara's domain now. But Tyler mentioned returning gear. If you move fast, you'll catch something. They nodded, already writing. We'll draft a warrant. After they left, Daniel sat in silence, staring at the papers still scattered across the table. Each one was proof, but proof didn't erase the image of Noah whispering into a phone, lungs fighting fog. A knock broke the quiet. Mara stood on the porch, arms wrapped tight across her chest. Her eyes were red, mascara smudged, but her voice carried a defensive edge. We need to talk. Daniel let her in, but didn't offer a seat. You told the police, she said flatly. Yes. Her lips trembled. Do you know what this will do? Tyler's channel. Our income. Daniel cut her off, voice sharp. Our income? You signed a deal. You put our son in danger for a paycheck. Mara shook her head. You don't understand. I was trying to build a future. Tyler said one viral video could change everything. We wouldn't need your support, your rules. You mean you wouldn't need me? Daniel's words sliced the air. Mara's eyes flashed, then dimmed. I thought I could control it. He said the fog was safe. He said the drama would just scare people enough to make them pay attention. Daniel stepped closer, lowering his voice. Did you pull the batteries from the smoke detectors? Her silence was answer enough. Did you swap Noah's inhaler with a dummy? His voice cracked on the last word. Mara flinched. It wasn't supposed to matter. Tyler said. Daniel slammed his palm against the counter. The sound made Noah stir in the other room. He forced himself to breathe, to steady the rage that threatened to spill over. You gambled with his life. That's not a future, it's a headline. Mara's tears spilled freely now, shoulders shaking. I didn't mean for him to get hurt, she whispered. Daniel's eyes stayed cold. Intent doesn't change what you did. Before either of them could say more, headlights flashed across the window. The detectives were back, warrant in hand. Mara's face blanched as they stepped inside, reading off terms. Seizure of devices, cameras, fog machine rentals. One officer opened a laptop on the counter, Tyler's. On the desktop, a file stared back at them. House fire demo, final cut. The detective double-clicked. The screen filled with footage, Tyler grinning at the lens, fog curling behind him, Noah coughing in the hall. Off camera, Mara's voice rang clear. Reset detectors after B-roll. Daniel's stomach dropped. Mara swayed, as if struck, one hand pressed against the counter for balance. The detective looked up, expression unreadable. Mr. West, he said, thank you for the call. We'll take it from here. Daniel glanced at Noah's blanket on the couch, the inhaler resting on the armrest. His son's innocence was intact, for now. But the evidence on that screen had shattered everything else. The footage rolled again, this time with the detectives pausing every few seconds. Daniel stood behind them, fists clenched at his sides. On screen, Tyler's voice was too cheerful for the scene unfolding. Okay, buddy, remember what we practiced. Hide when it gets smoky. Whisper into the phone if you call your dad. Nice and quiet, just like rehearsal. Noah's small frame moved across the hall, pajamas clinging in the artificial haze. His cough echoed, soft but real. Then Mara appeared in the corner of the frame, adjusting the ring light. She glanced toward the ceiling, lifted a detector cover, and set the battery on the counter. The detective froze the screen there. "That's you," he said, looking at Mara. She hugged her arms tight, eyes glistening. I wasn't." "Stop," Daniel snapped. His voice cracked like a whip, and the words tumbled out raw. "Just stop lying. That's our son coughing, and you're worried about framing the shot." Mara turned toward him, tears spilling. "I thought it was safe. Tyler said the fog was non-toxic. He said it would look dramatic, but not dangerous." Daniel shook his head slowly. "And you believed him. You let our boy choke for a video." The detectives exchanged a look. One began collecting external drives, while the other photographed the setup. Every click of the camera sounded like a nail being driven into a coffin. Tyler burst through the door minutes later, his swagger dimmed by the sight of badges and evidence bags. "What the hell is this?" he demanded. "Police search warrant," one detective replied evenly. "We're seizing equipment related to child endangerment." Tyler laughed, too loud, too brittle. "Child endangerment? You gotta be kidding." It was a controlled demonstration. No flames, no risk. Fog machines are used at concerts every night. Daniel stepped forward, voice low and steady. "My son couldn't breathe. He has asthma. You knew that." Tyler's grin faltered. He spread his arms. "Kids cough all the time. Look, the audience eats this stuff up. Real fear gets real clicks. You think anyone's gonna cry over a little haze?" The detective cut him off. "We have footage of you directing a minor in a hazardous environment. We also have your fiancé on tape disabling alarms. And there's a financial trail leading straight to sponsorship revenue. You're done." Tyler's bravado cracked. He lunged toward the laptop, but the detective blocked him. "That's mine," he shouted. "No," Daniel said sharply, the word laced with venom. "That's my son's life you tried to monetize." Mara sank into a chair, head in her hands. "I didn't want to go this far," she whispered. "I just thought one video, one chance to make things easier." Daniel stared at her, jaw tight. Easier for who? Not for Noah. The room swelled with silence, broken only by the shuffling of evidence bags. The detectives escorted Tyler toward the door, his protest growing thinner with each step. "You're ruining a career. You don't understand how content works." Daniel followed them out onto the porch. "No," he said coldly. "You don't understand what being a father means." Back inside, Mara lifted her tear-streaked face. "Daniel, I swear I didn't know he'd panic like that. Tyler promised." Tyler promised. Daniel's voice cracked, equal parts fury and heartbreak. "And you believe him over your own son's safety." Noah stirred on the couch, small and fragile under his blanket. Daniel softened immediately, walking over, brushing the boy's hair back. He whispered, "It's okay, buddy. You don't have to whisper anymore." For the first time that night, Mara looked at her son as if seeing him clearly, guilt cutting deeper than fear. But Daniel knew remorse wasn't enough. The damage was done, and the truth had only just begun to surface. The detectives left with Tyler in handcuffs, his protests echoing down the street until the patrol car doors slammed shut. The house fell into a heavy silence. Daniel stood in the doorway, staring after the flashing lights, his fists still trembling from the confrontation. When he turned back, Mara was seated at the kitchen table, her face pale, eyes swollen from tears. Her hands fidgeted in her lap, twisting the hem of her sleeve like a child caught lying. "Daniel," she began softly, "I never wanted Noah hurt. I just thought this could fix things." Daniel crossed the room slowly, planting his hands on the table. His voice was steady, each word deliberate. "Fix what? Rent? Bills? Your pride? Tell me, Mara, what could possibly be worth seeing our son choking in a bathroom?" She swallowed hard, unable to meet his eyes. "I didn't think it would go wrong. Tyler said the sponsor wanted authenticity. Real fear, real reactions. And he promised the fog was safe." Daniel's gaze narrowed. "The sponsor?" He pulled his phone from his pocket, opening the email chain with Mark. "Do you know whose name is on the contract?" "Not Tyler's. Yours." He spun the screen toward her. Mara froze. The signature line read clearly, M. Hale. Payment account linked directly to her email. Her breath caught, face draining of what little color remained. You went behind me, Daniel said quietly, almost more wounded than angry now. You signed away our son's safety. For money. Her eyes brimmed with tears. I thought it was just content. Tyler said he couldn't do it without me. He needed a parent's consent. I thought it was harmless, an opportunity. We've been drowning, Daniel. I wanted to give Noah more. More. Daniel's voice sharpened. You gave him less. Less air. Less safety. Less trust. Mara buried her face in her hands, sobbing. I didn't mean for it to go that far. From the living room, Noah's weak voice drifted through the silence. Dad! Daniel turned instantly, kneeling beside the couch. Noah sat up, clutching his inhaler, eyes heavy but alert. Why was Mom crying? Daniel smoothed his son's hair, voice low and gentle. Because she made a mistake, buddy. A big one. But you don't have to worry. You're safe now. Noah leaned into him, the small trust of a child anchoring Daniel's resolve. When Daniel looked back toward the kitchen, Mara was watching them through tear-blurred eyes. I only wanted one video, she whispered. One chance to make life easier. Tyler said people would finally listen if it looked real. Daniel's expression hardened. They didn't listen. They watched. And they nearly watched our son suffocate. The room stilled, the weight of the truth pressing on every corner. The sponsor money, the contract, the fake inhaler, all of it tied back not just to Tyler's greed, but to Mara's choice. Daniel pulled Noah closer, his voice firm. This ends now. No more cameras. No more lies. If you can't choose our son over a paycheck, the court will choose for you. Mara's tears came harder, but Daniel didn't flinch. For the first time, she saw in his eyes something unshakable. Not just anger, but a father's vow carved from the night his son whispered for air. And she knew that vow would be the end of everything she and Tyler had built. The next morning, Daniel woke to the sound of cartoons playing faintly in the living room. Noah sat curled on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, the inhaler close at hand. His laughter was weak but real, each giggle a relief that pierced through Daniel's exhaustion. For a moment, Daniel allowed himself to breathe. But then his phone buzzed. A message from Mark lit the screen. Daniel, heads up. Tyler tried to upload a backup cut through another channel. We flagged it, but it means he's still pushing. Daniel's stomach dropped. Tyler wasn't finished. Not even in custody. The thought that he was still trying to use Noah's fear for profit made Daniel's chest burn. He typed back quickly. Save everything. I'll need it for court. In the kitchen, Mara sat at the table, her face hollow from a night without sleep. She had barely spoken since signing the warrant papers. Now, she lifted her head, eyes rimmed red. Daniel, I'll lose him, won't I? Daniel poured coffee, the clink of the mug sharp in the silence. You already did. I'm just making it official. Her hands trembled. I was stupid. I let Tyler convince me this was opportunity. I never thought it would spiral like this. Please, don't take Noah away from me. Daniel's jaw tightened. Mara, you didn't just let him convince you. You signed. You removed alarms. You handed our son to danger because you wanted clicks and cash. Tell me, how do I explain that to an 8-year-old? Her lips parted, but no answer came. The tension broke with a knock at the door. Detectives again. Daniel ushered Noah into the bedroom with cartoons, turned louder before opening it. We've traced the payment trail, one detective said. The funds landed in Hale Content LLC, registered under Mara's name. Tyler may be the face, but legally, she's on the hook. Daniel glanced over his shoulder at Mara, who wilted into her chair like a deflated balloon. The second detective added, we also have video fragments from the laptop. There's a clip showing the inhaler being swapped. Voice matches Mara's. Use the training one, not the real one. That alone is enough for a child endangerment charge. Daniel closed his eyes for a long moment, fury and heartbreak colliding. What happens now? Charges for both, the detective said. Tyler for directing. Mara for consent and execution. CPS will open a file. You should prepare for an emergency custody hearing. Daniel nodded grimly. I already have. After they left, he found Mara sitting with her head bowed, silent tears streaming. She didn't look up when he approached. "They're going to charge you," he said quietly. "You'll have to face what you did." She whispered, "Do you think Noah will ever forgive me?" Daniel's voice was raw but steady. "Forgiveness isn't mine to give. It's his. And right now, the only thing he needs is safety." Her sobs filled the kitchen, but Daniel turned away, walking back to Noah's room. The boy looked up, eyes wide with worry. "Dad, are they mad at Mom?" Daniel knelt beside him, forcing a smile. "They're making sure this never happens again. That's all you need to know." Noah nodded, leaning against his father's shoulder, small fingers gripping his sleeve. For Daniel, that grip was both fragile and unbreakable, the reminder of why he had to see this fight through. Outside, the morning sun spilled across the street, but inside, the shadow of Tyler's scheme still lingered. And Daniel knew the battle was only beginning. Court, custody, and the truth laid bare for everyone to see. The courthouse smelled faintly of dust and old wood polish. Daniel sat at the petitioner's table, his tie knotted too tightly, hands folded to keep them from shaking. Beside him, his attorney arranged files in neat stacks, screenshots, sponsor contracts, the cash thumbnail. Each piece of paper felt like a weapon, but Daniel knew this battle wasn't only about evidence. It was about Noah. Across the aisle, Mara sat pale and drawn, her hair pulled back in a rushed bun. Tyler was nowhere to be seen. His hearing would come later, under criminal charges. But Mara's presence was enough. Her eyes flicked to Daniel once, pleading, then fell to the table again. The judge, a woman with gray streaking her hair and a voice that carried authority without effort, entered and took her seat. This court convenes to determine temporary custody of Noah West, pending investigation of endangerment claims. Daniel's attorney rose first, speaking clearly. "Your Honor, we submit that Noah's exposure to hazardous conditions was not accidental. It was staged, filmed, and monetized. The mother, Mara Hale, signed a sponsorship contract and actively participated by disabling smoke detectors and replacing the child's medical inhaler with a non-medicated training device." The judge's eyes narrowed. "Do you have proof of these claims?" "Yes, Your Honor." The attorney displayed the screenshot of a YouTube thumbnail, then the sponsor confirmation email. Finally, he played the short clip recovered from Tyler's laptop. The room stilled. On screen, Noah coughed in the haze while Mara's voice rang out. "Use the training one, not the real one." Gasps rippled through the small gallery. Mara buried her face in her hands, shoulders shaking. Daniel's attorney lowered the screen. "Your Honor, Noah is 8 years old. He is asthmatic. This was not content. It was endangerment. We request immediate primary custody for Mr. West." The judge turned to Mara. "Ms. Hale, do you contest this evidence?" Mara lifted her head, eyes red. I thought it was safe. Tyler said the sponsor needed authenticity. I didn't think." "That is clear," the judge interrupted firmly. "You did not think." Daniel's stomach twisted. He wanted to shout, to rage, but he held it in. This moment belonged to truth, not fury. The judge leaned forward. "Ms. Hale, until this court is convinced you can prioritize your child's safety over external influence, your visitation will be supervised and limited. Custody is hereby awarded to Mr. West pending final review." Daniel's breath caught. He closed his eyes, gripping the table edge as relief surged through him like air after drowning. Mara sobbed openly now. "Please, I never wanted to lose him. I thought it would help." The judge's gavel struck once, ending the hearing. As people shuffled out, Daniel stood, gathering his files with shaking hands. Mara reached toward him across the aisle. "Daniel, please," she whispered. "Tell him I love him. Tell him I didn't mean to." He stopped, meeting her gaze. His voice was steady, quiet, final. "Love is not supposed to look like that." He walked out of the courtroom, every step heavy but certain. In the lobby, Noah waited with a social worker, coloring in a notebook. When he saw Daniel, his face lit up, tired but bright. "Dad!" Daniel knelt, scooping him into his arms. "It's okay, buddy," he whispered. "You're coming home with me." For the first time since that terrible midnight call, Daniel felt like the ground beneath him was solid again. But he also knew the fight wasn't finished. Tyler still had influence, Mara still carried guilt, and Noah still carried the memory of choking in smoke that wasn't smoke. And the truth, the full truth, had yet to scorch its way into the light. The courthouse hallway buzzed with low voices, but Daniel barely heard them. He walked with Noah's small hand in his, clutching the boy's drawings in his other pocket. For the first time in weeks, he felt like a father again. Not a man chasing shadows, but someone who could finally protect his son. Yet the shadows weren't done. 2 weeks later, Tyler's criminal trial began. The courtroom was fuller this time. Reporters crammed into benches, cameras flashing in the corridor outside. The words child endangerment and influencer stunt had already stirred headlines. Daniel sat in the gallery, Noah at home with a sitter, his presence too fragile for what would unfold. Mara sat further down, pale and subdued, clutching tissues as if they might hold her together. The prosecution wasted no time. They displayed Tyler's video clips, fog curling across the living room, Noah coughing in the haze, Tyler grinning at the camera. The jury shifted uncomfortably. Ladies and gentlemen, the prosecutor said, voice steady. This was not an accident. This was a production. A child was treated not as a person, but as a prop. Tyler's defense attorney countered with charm. It was a demonstration, a safety video. My client believed it was controlled and harmless. No flames, no danger. At worst, bad judgment. Daniel's fists tightened on his knees. Bad judgment? His son had nearly suffocated. Then came the twist. The prosecution played a recovered audio file, an off-camera recording from Tyler's phone. Tyler's voice. We need him to look scared. If he panics, even better. The sponsor wants authenticity. And Mara's voice, trembling but clear. He won't forgive me if he suffers. Tyler, don't worry. Fear fades. Views don't. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Mara covered her face, sobbing. Daniel's stomach knotted. Hearing it aloud made the betrayal heavier, more real than any document. The prosecutor let the silence linger before speaking. This is not carelessness. This is intent. They plotted fear as content. And when an 8-year-old whispered to his father that he couldn't breathe, they treated it as a take, not a tragedy. Tyler's mask of confidence cracked. He shifted in his seat, jaw tightening, eyes darting toward Mara as if dragging her down with him. The judge's gaze swept the room, heavy with disdain. We will not treat children as currency, she said firmly before adjourning for the day. In the hallway, Mara approached Daniel, tears streaking her face. I was wrong, she whispered, her voice raw. Every day since that night, I hear him coughing. I hear him whisper. I don't expect forgiveness, but please tell him I love him. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. He saw regret, yes, but also the wreckage of choices that could never be undone. I'll tell him, he said quietly. But love isn't words, Mara. It's choices. And you made yours. She broke down, sliding against the wall, sobbing into her hands. Reporters tried to capture the scene, but Daniel turned away, shielding himself from the noise. Outside, the air was cold, crisp, clean. Daniel drew in a deep breath, as if reminding himself what safety felt like. The trial wasn't over, but the truth was undeniable now. The world had heard the whispers, the coughs, the orders given for a child to look afraid. For the first time since the midnight call, Daniel believed justice was coming. Not just for Noah, but for every child treated as content instead of life. And he knew the final verdict would decide more than Tyler's fate. It would define Noah's future and whether Mara would ever be trusted again. The final day of Tyler's trial drew a packed courtroom. The air was thick with anticipation, every shuffle of paper and cough amplified by tension. Daniel sat in the gallery, his hands clasped, knuckles white. He wasn't here for revenge. He was here for Noah. The judge entered, gavel striking once. Court will now deliver verdict. The jury foreman stood. His voice was steady, measured. We, the jury, find the defendant, Tyler Hale, guilty of child endangerment, evidence tampering, and reckless disregard for safety. The words landed like thunder. Gasps rippled through the room. Mara's sobs echoed softly from the bench where she sat, her face buried in her hands. Tyler's jaw clenched, the smirk finally gone, his shoulders sagging under the weight of reality. The judge's tone was unflinching. Mr. Hale, you treated a vulnerable child as a tool for profit. This court sentences you to 7 years in state prison, with no eligibility for parole before 4. Your actions endangered not only a child's health, but the sanctity of parental trust. Daniel exhaled slowly, a release that felt like shedding chains. Then came his second blow. As for Ms. Hale, the judge continued. Her cooperation and admission have been considered. However, her role in disabling alarms and providing consent cannot be ignored. Custody of Noah West remains with his father, Mr. West, with supervised visitation rights granted only after counseling and court approval. Mara's sobs deepened, her body shaking as if the words themselves broke her. She whispered, "I'm sorry," though no one looked her way. Daniel rose when the session ended. The crowd spilled into the hall, reporters shouting questions, cameras flashing. He pushed past, ignoring them all. Outside, the sunlight was bright, almost blinding, the air sharp and honest. Later that evening, Daniel sat on the porch with Noah curled against his side. The boy clutched a sketch pad, showing his father a drawing. A small house with a tree out front, smoke detectors sketched neatly on the ceiling beams, and 2 stick figures, one tall, one small, standing outside under a blue sky. "Is that us?" Daniel asked softly. "Yeah," Noah said. His voice was stronger now, less brittle. "And that's the alarm. It's loud. I like it loud. It means we're safe." Daniel's throat tightened. He kissed the top of his son's head, whispering, "That's right, buddy. Loud means safe." Noah tilted his head up. "Dad, is it okay if I talk normal now? Not whisper?" Daniel's eyes stung, but he smiled through it. "It's more than okay. You never have to whisper again." The boy grinned, his laughter clear, unburdened. Inside, the new smoke detectors blinked green. The house felt lighter, steadier, no haze pressing against its walls. For the first time in months, Daniel believed tomorrow could be normal. Meals at the table, homework on the counter, laughter untainted by fear. As the sun dipped behind the horizon, Daniel closed his eyes and breathed deeply. Each inhale was a reminder. His son was alive, safe, free. The nightmare had ended not with fire, but with truth brought into the light. And those scars remained. Mara's choices, Tyler's greed, Noah's memories. They no longer defined their future. The only sound Daniel chose to carry forward was the steady, unbroken rhythm of his son's breathing beside him. The whisper that once haunted him was gone. In its place lived a promise, clear, strong, and loud.